We begin with that hazmat scene unfolding at this hour at a military base not far from the Pentagon. Several people falling ill, including Marines, several transported for treatment at this hour after an unknown substance was discovered in an envelope sent to Joint Base Myer, Henderson Hall. And Martha, what have you learned tonight?
David, Joint Base Myer is just across the river from Washington. It is where the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff lives and several of the service chiefs as well. Late this afternoon, a Marine opened an envelope containing an unknown substance. That's when several Marines started feeling a burning sensation on their faces and hands. The building was evacuated while hazmat units doused those who were affected. 11 Marines were assessed on the scene, 3 of them transported to a medical facility. The FBI sent the envelope to be checked for that substance 2 Quantico, but meanwhile, those Marines are in stable condition. David?
All right, but in stable condition tonight. Martha, thank you.
How real do you think is the possibility of military conflict with North Korea?
Well, I certainly hope it never occurs, although I am increasingly concerned about that possibility. I'm encouraged with the discussions between the North and the South. I'm encouraged by the meeting in Vancouver. It's 14 countries whose leaders are very focused on this, and I think that is tremendously representative of what needs to happen. But until I see, actual movement with respect to the real issue, which is nuclear weapons, I remain increasingly concerned.
Do you think we are closer than we have been before?
Yes, I don't think there's any question that we are. And I think you see that in the readiness, the increased readiness levels that both the United States has and our allies are working on as well. The increased focus, certainly the actions that have been taken by Kim Jong-un. So I think we're closer than we've been in decades in terms of potential conflict breaking out on that peninsula.
I want to ask you about the White House and America's engagement in diplomatic processes, and whether it comes to North Korea or whether it comes to sanctions in Iran or trade, for example. There seems to be some kind of containing influence around the president and his instincts from generals. Which wins out? Is it the president's gut, as he likes to call it, or that restraining influence that the generals have?
Certainly so far, Secretary Mattis and Secretary Tillerson have spoken very clearly about the need to get to a diplomatic solution in North Korea. So I'm somewhat optimistic that their influence and their counsel to the president is being listened to. I think we almost talk about it, somewhat cavalierly in terms of just another level of combat. They're devastating, the most devastating weapons on earth. And so all efforts to press this to a solution that doesn't involve combat and the potential for nuclear war have to be expended.
What do you make in terms of America's national security and America's interests about the president's recent derogatory comments about Africa?
Well, Kathy, one of the things that is very obvious when you work in this in this field is countries around the world, both as the nation itself as well as individuals who lead them, they want to be treated with respect. Describing countries as they've been described I don't think you get anywhere in terms of where we can go down the road with respect to that relationship or to the, in the global community. So I hope this ends very quickly, although I think an awful lot of damage has been done.
Admiral Mullen, thank you for joining me.
Thanks, Kathy.
Officials here are now looking at how to cut harmful diesel emissions as a ruling in Germany adds to growing moves against the fuel.
Cities there will be able to ban diesel vehicles if pollution gets too high. Emily Cooper looks at whether New Zealand could follow suit.
European roads are changing. One day there will be no diesel vehicles. Germany's highest court now allowing cities to ban diesel cars. The German ruling follows the UK and France banning the sale of new diesel and petrol cars from 2040. A number of other cities around Europe, including Athens, have also said they intend to ban diesel cars. But will New Zealand join what's being described as a global trend?
I've asked officials for advice on a range of options that we can use to address both the health impacts and the climate impacts.
256 premature deaths annually in New Zealand, costing $934 million. As of last year, there were over 800,000 diesel vehicles on our roads, 135,000 of those trucks, and nearly 10,000 are buses. The Road Transport Forum says the truck and freight industry in New Zealand is ready to adapt.
I think we're on the cusp of major change.
And is working closely with the government about what more can be done.
We have electric trucks out there now in New Zealand. Enviro Waste, Waste Management and other garbage collectors have electric trucks out there now. They're particularly well suited to that.
And he says it's only a matter of time before we see more electric trucks.
Cops say this young woman was murdered by a total stranger, and making it more frightening, the murder happened in a public library. As Stephen Fabian reports, once thought of quiet places to read or study, libraries are frequently becoming more dangerous.
This man is accused of the unprovoked murder of a 22-year-old medical student, and it took place in one of the most unlikely of places, a public library. The totally random attack happened when 23-year-old Jeffrey Yao allegedly stabbed Deanne Stryker with a 10-inch hunting knife at a library just outside Boston. Public libraries are usually tranquil sanctuaries where you can read and study. But it may surprise you to learn that an unusual number of violent incidents have been recorded in libraries across America. These two students go at each other in a New Jersey college library. And at this library in Tennessee, this guy stole a flat-screen TV. We also found disturbing incidents that don't violate the law, like openly watching porn. This guy had the nerve to screen X-rated videos near a 4-year-old girl.
Did you realize that there was a 4-year-old girl just 2 computers away while you were watching adult videos?
The library is a family place. That's very disturbing.
That same year in Maine, this man was accused of a lewd act in the library as he sat next to this woman.
I actually heard him unzip his pants. So of course I looked over because that was, just odd to me. And he actually exposed himself.
Charges were dismissed when he entered a psychiatric facility.
Did you commit a lewd act in the library?
No, I did not.
He was a ticking time bomb, and it was only a matter of time before he went off.
Nicole Luongo is a neighbor to the accused murderer and says he suffers from mental illness.
It's a very sad time in our neighborhood. We're mourning this girl. We still feel like we lost one of our own.
Deanne Stryker was studying to become a doctor. The man charged with her murder has pled not guilty.
A deadly outbreak of listeriosis has had health authorities searching for the source for weeks. Today, they've revealed the illness has been linked to rockmelon from a grower near Griffith. The company stopped production on Friday and is now working with the New South Wales Food Authority to discover how any contamination occurred. Health authorities say 10 elderly patients ate the fruit before falling ill. Listeriosis starts with flu-like symptoms, including fever, chills, muscle aches, nausea, sometimes diarrhoea, and can take up to 6 weeks to appear. Most at risk are those aged over 70, pregnant or have diabetes, cancer or a suppressed immune system. The Food Authority is advising those people to get rid of any rockmelon they have at home. It says all affected rockmelons have been removed from stores. The Australian Melon Association says we are working closely with government food safety investigators and will redouble our efforts to eliminate foodborne illness. For those at risk, authorities have emphasised a general warning about rockmelon and other foods.
This includes pre-cut fruit, pre-bagged salads and pre-mixed salads, cold chicken, deli meats, raw seafood and sprouted products.
Paul, as we've just heard, the outbreak goes well beyond rockmelon.
Mark, that's right. While health authorities have linked those 6 cases, including those 2 deaths, to the rockmelon, that still doesn't account for all 15 listeriosis cases reported in New South Wales so far this year. And while the possible source of those 9 extra cases, which includes 1 further death, is being investigated, officials are keen to remind those at risk to avoid those foods.
New concerns for parents this morning about a spike in sexting among teenagers. Researchers say 27% of kids under 18 are receiving sexually explicit texts, including nude photos, and nearly 15% are sending them. Many teens don't realize those pictures could end up in the wrong hands.
It's really important for parents to have conversations about healthy dating relationships and sexting, sexuality, and peer relationships with their teens often, so that they can really have a platform and a common dialogue with the teens.
Well, the study found 12% of the teens surveyed forwarded the photos without consent. Those pictures are sometimes used to bully other teens and blackmail them into taking more explicit photos.
Meanwhile, doctors say social media is putting teenagers at a higher risk of depression and suicide. Now, a top medical group is urging pediatricians to screen children for depression every year, starting at age 12. They say 20% of adolescents have a history of depression.